Welcome to the Sermon in the Valley with Pastor Rob Eller. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends and family. Thank you. Welcome back to the Sermon in the Valley, everyone. I had hoped to do my episode today on a sermon I had preached a couple months ago, right after Christmas, because I actually preached it yesterday at a nearby Methodist church for their noontime Wednesday Lent service. And I thought I could bring it back and it would be a good thing. But then I'll have to wait for another time. Because here we are again, talking about the local homeless shelter. I had just done an episode on this 2 weeks ago, where I interviewed the president of their board of directors, and talking about how they're trying to find a new facility. And things were looking good. We had, after that conversation that he and I had, we thought, okay, yes, there's some concerns, but nothing that can't be addressed. And it seems to be heading in the right direction. Until this past Monday, when there was a meeting of the Zoning and Annexation Committee of the City Council. And once again, the plan was shot down. A reminder of, here's the verse, here's the Bible verse I had used as part of that episode. It comes from the Gospel of Matthew, and it's from the Judgment of the Nations. Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me. How we treat everyone is a reflection of how we would treat Jesus. And this is a very poor reflection on how we would treat Jesus, the way we are treating the homeless here in Tuscarawas County. I am ashamed and appalled by what I read in the news article the following day. It's once again come down to, we like the idea of the shelter, we just don't want you to have it anywhere, near us. And I am so tired of that argument being made, because it dehumanizes those who are homeless. It makes them seem less than a person, and when they're not, they're just like you and I. They're in a poor circumstance. They're trying to get a leg up and get back on their feet, and the shelter is the way they do that. And we are treating them so horribly. Now, mind you, there were some legitimate concerns about where this new proposed site was. It isn't a floodplain right off a creek, and I get that. I understand their concerns. The shelter was ready to address those concerns. They'd have to get flood insurance. They'd have to do some mandatory drain work. They were prepared to deal with that. But that wasn't the reason why it was denied. It was outrage from the neighborhood. It was outrage over, we don't want those people in our neighborhood. We don't want those criminals. We don't want those dangerous people near us. And let me tell you, the homeless are not criminals. They're not dangerous. They're just like you and I. But that was their excuse. And what's even more appalling is that one of the loudest critics from that neighborhood was a church. That's right, a church whose property would be right up against the property that the homeless shelter was trying to acquire. Said that they're worried about crime in the neighborhood if the shelter goes there. They're worried about things like needles being on their property where the kids of the church and the neighborhood play. As if everyone who is in that shelter is a drug addict. And they're not. And I'm appalled that a fellow member of the clergy would even say that about the people we are called as clergy and as Christians to serve. How dare she make that proclamation that those people are less than, those people are dangerous, they are drug addicts, they're criminals. How dare they make that statement? We are called to serve everyone. We are called to love everyone. And to make that statement is so un-Christ-like. It goes against the very nature of our faith. But it's not just her, it's the continued actions of the city government for allowing this to be drawn out. No one is innocent there. They need to realize that they, as city officials, are there to serve the entire city. Not just those who own property, not just those who have a roof over their heads, but everyone who resides in this city, they are to serve, and they are forgetting that. This whole thing has gone on for too long. I was hopeful over the holidays when I saw a quote in the local paper from one of the city council members that said, no, it's the holiday season. Are we going to be this heartless? We need to find a solution now. And I thought, okay, that's the turning point. That's where things are finally going to start working out, and they can finally get the shelter off the ground, and they can finally find a new place. But I was wrong. Those just seem to be empty, hollow words. And now the shelter's back to square one. They still have their existing building, but as we said in that previous episode on the shelter, it's old. It's 100 years old. It's a 3-story building without handicap access. It's deteriorating on the inside. They recently had to do a major repair to their boiler, and they had a custom order and have the parts custom made for the boiler because that particular boiler is no longer in production. The costs to maintain that building are increasing, and it's going to come to the point where either they can't afford it anymore, or the building's going to deteriorate to the point where they can't occupy it anymore. And then what happens? All of those folks are going to be out on the streets in the cold. And we can't let that happen. We can't be that heartless. Christ told us to love and serve our neighbor. He didn't put any qualifications on what it meant to be a neighbor. It just meant those around us. And he didn't tell us to do it when it's most convenient or easiest for you. He told us to do it every time. We need to live by that example. We need to love and serve our neighbors no matter the cost, no matter when or where they ask. So what happens next for the shelter? Well, as the board president alluded to in that last episode, they may have to look further outside the city limits. But with that comes added costs. First of all, trying to find something further out, away from a residential area, poses there comes the added cost of potentially having to do utility hookups. Electric won't be as difficult. Water is the main concern. And then there's the factor of it being so far away from the city center. They're gonna have to find some way to transport all those residents into the city to be able to access social services and then get them back to the shelter in the evening. That's just not economically feasible. It's just not. We need to do better. We have to do better. We can do better. The ball is in the city's court. Their main weapon right now is zoning laws. That is the main way they have been continuously stonewalling this project. Our zoning laws here are so outdated that there is no provision in the existing laws for a homeless shelter. And every time the organization tries to get any kind of clarification, they get no answers. They're a 501c3 nonprofit, so by that nature, they should be able to get a building or land in the area zoned business. City denies that. Okay, fine. People live there, so it should be considered a multi-family residence. So it should be allowed to go in an area zoned residential. City won't allow that. But in the process, they won't clarify the existing zoning laws, or give them a variance that says, okay, this is where you can go. They're using this. That is their main tactic. And I fear they're just going to continue to drag their feet further and further on this. Are there other properties around the area they could get? Sure. But no matter where they go, they're going to face obstacles, and I don't think they're going to get the help they need from those in power. This is where all of you come into play. Donate to the shelter. I'll once again put the link to the shelter website in the description for this episode. You can go to their website, you can find out how to donate. Write letters in support to them, to the city government here. If you're a local, go to the meetings. Stand up and be a voice for them. This can't go on any further. They've been fighting for too long, and they can only fight so long before they are forced into a situation that we don't want them in, which is to close their existing building without having a replacement ready. Please, I am asking all of you to help. As Christians, we are called to be a voice for the voiceless. We are called to help our neighbors in need. We are called to love one another. We can do all that just by standing up for the shelter. They are our neighbors, they are our friends, they are our family. It could be one of us sometime. Many of us have been in positions in our lives where we have been one paycheck away from being homeless. So it shouldn't be hard to empathize with them. Please, do your part. Help our neighbors in need. That is all I am asking. Once again, if you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast. Share with your friends and family, especially this episode. Please share this episode with your friends and family. God's blessings on all of you, and have a good day.